So what range of size of nonprofits are you working with?
The ones that will usually get the most benefit out of this, Tim, will be organizations that have some size and stability. The rule of thumb for us tends to be $1.5 million organizations up to 30 or 40 or $50 million organizations. Below $1.5 million, organizations can get real benefit, but only if they have developed the basics of being regularly audited. They have a proof of concept already, and they have their basic funders. Because if an organization is really small and really a startup nonprofit, we can predict that their biggest threats and opportunities are going to involve proof of concept and getting 2 initial people as funding streams. Then and only then is a new nonprofit going to be able to have the stability to develop more basic processes.
So what's your role individually as you facilitate these conversations?
Well, it's fun. I do the training, which tends to be 3 or 4 sessions with this core group of people. After that, I have colleagues who will do the risk inventory process and the risk prioritization process. I will then come back and sit down with senior leadership when they get the results of their prioritization. The results of the prioritization are a document called a risk register. It's basically, if you're building a new house, you get a punch list of items that have to get done. A risk register is basically an organizational punch list of the most important items facing your organization. It's like an annual operating plan, but very much an agile annual operating plan. It's a self-refreshing list of the most important things that you need to focus on. And so I will sit down with senior management about that and help them think, with this particular threat or opportunity, who should be the champion of that risk within the organization? What should be the next step that the organization does about that risk? And when should they report out about that risk to the whole group? That process is what we call developing a risk cycle. We have organizations first do an inventory, then they get the risk register after prioritization. And then that risk register is the basis of regular meetings over time about risks and how they're being addressed within the organization. And that regular process, that cadence of identifying, prioritizing, responding to risks, seeing how it went, and then identifying more, that we call the risk cycle. And we help them with that as well.
So it's not a one-time exercise, it's an ongoing effort that's moving forward more or less on a permanent basis.
Absolutely. It's not a risk, it's not an event. It very much is a process. That said, if an organization wanted to just do an inventory and do a one-time risk register, they'd get value out of it. They wouldn't get nearly as much value out of it as if they were able to institutionalize that over time. And that institutionalization doesn't have to be a costly thing. It can be once every 3 months or once a quarter or once every half year. You pull out that register and see how you're doing.
In your role, they go through the process, they identify the risks, they prioritize. What happens if you think that they've missed something glaring?
Well, that's one of the things that we like to add and like to tell people we add as a bit of value there. And we've worked with literally hundreds of nonprofits, and we have data about what the average nonprofit does have as far as risk management and other aspects of protection. So if they go through a risk inventory and they work up a risk register, and that risk register doesn't have some of the key things that we see as nonprofit threats or opportunities, we will then weigh in. We will say, for instance, you need a succession plan. And you need a succession plan even if your nonprofit leadership is all hale and hearty and thinks they're going to be here forever. Because Succession can be triggered at any time. We've seen that over the last couple of years. And having to deal with succession without having a plan in place is one of the most disruptive things that can happen to a nonprofit.